When a high-conflict personality enters family court, they flip the script. They use the legal system to cast themselves as the innocent victim, while aggressively painting their former partner as the villain. But the trait they rely on most, their grandiose ego and absolute belief in their own superiority, is actually a massive vulnerability in a structured legal setting. They cannot tolerate reality, and they despise granular details. We can expose that vulnerability using a concrete, 4-step courtroom exposure plan. We are going to systematically dismantle their gaslighting and force them to reveal their true nature to the judge. Before we step into a courtroom, we have to prepare. Step 0 is gathering all written communications, building a strict timeline of events with your attorney, and identifying the opponent's core points of pride, whether it is their business acumen, their approach to parenting, or their perceived intelligence. This diagram illustrates the courtroom chaos. Divorce acts as a narcissistic injury, threatening the grandiose self-image of the high-conflict parent, triggering deep inferiority and a fear of abandonment. Standard legal defenses fail against these persecutory delusions. Step 1 is the diagnostic audit. We need to review all past written communications, but we are going to stop reacting to the emotional insults. Instead, we read them clinically to identify the mechanical intent behind their speech. High-conflict individuals rely heavily on a cycle of gaslighting known as DARVO. This is their engine for narrative control. This graphic breaks down the DARVO engine. Looking at the right side of the loop, your job is to document every instance where the opponent denies an established fact and launches a preemptive attack to distract from their actions. They then finally reverse the roles of victim and offender. The true abuser claims the coveted role of the protective, nurturing victim. You must compile a detailed log of every time they complete this cycle. By mapping this cycle on paper, you shift your own mindset from emotional reaction to clinical observation. You are no longer defending yourself against vague accusations. You are handing a mapped gaslighting strategy to your attorney. Step 2 is building the factual pillar. Narcissists operate in a fantasy world. They avoid specifics. We are going to counter their DARVO lies exclusively with cold, indisputable paper trail evidence. Do not fall into the trap of arguing the logic. Attempting to rationally debate a delusion only validates their alternate reality. You cannot talk a high-conflict personality out of their distortion. Instead, you attach a hard piece of evidence to every single DARVO attack you logged in Step 1. We want bank statements, text messages, emails, and objective third-party reports. If they claim to the court that they are a highly involved, dedicated parent, your response is not an argument. Your response is presenting the school log, proving they have never attended a single parent-teacher meeting. The factual pillar neutralizes their smear campaign because paper trails lack emotion. It makes the opponent's manufactured narrative completely unsustainable under cross-examination. Step 3 is formulating subtle triggers. You will work with your lawyer to embed psychological leverage into the cross-examination. This means asking specific, indirect, factual questions that strike at their core insecurities. A narcissist unravels when forced to publicly confront their own mediocrity or subordination. We want to highlight that they are not receiving special treatment and that they are entirely average. Direct, aggressive insults make you look vindictive and play right into their victim narrative. But calm, factual inquiries about their lack of special status are absolutely devastating. For example, instead of calling them a failure, your attorney asks, "Isn't it true you hold a mid-level position at your company?" Or, "Did your attorney have to draft these documents because you didn't understand the legal terms?" These questions force the narcissist to mount a psychological defense rather than a legal one. In their desperate need to reestablish their grandiosity, they will often argue with their own attorney or try to take over the proceedings entirely. Step 4 is executing professional provocation. Once the subtle triggers are applied, your job is to do absolutely nothing. You sit back and let them react. Pushed to the corner by facts and challenged on their superiority, the high-conflict personality will likely lash out. They will display intense aggression, argue with the judge, and expose manipulative stratagems they never intended to reveal. You must avoid the vengeance trap. If you display smugness, roll your eyes, or look gleeful during their outburst, the judge will see two antagonistic parties, and you will be framed as an aggressor. Execution requires absolute stillness. Maintain a neutral expression, take notes calmly, and remain the only completely regulated adult in the room. By remaining a blank slate, you remove yourself as a distraction. You force the judge to see the opponent's erratic behavior in a total vacuum, effectively killing their smear campaign on the spot. Let's review the checklist. You decoded their Darvo loops. You countered their lies with cold, documented facts. You drafted subtle triggers with your attorney, and you maintained absolute composure under pressure. The court does not need you to tell them the other parent is manipulative or deceitful. You simply have to create the environment where the high-conflict personality shows them directly. Stick to the facts, stay out of the mud, let their own grandiosity be their undoing. This diagram represents the entire goal of our process. We are moving from a tangled, chaotic mess of pathological dynamics and emotional reactions directly into clear, evidence-based clarity. You can start preparing today. Check the description to download the BIF communication template so you can begin tracking their texts and identifying Darvo loops right now.